Okay.
I'm going to call the January 2023, 2024 Beaverton Urban Redevelopment Agency meeting to order. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Director Duggar,
Here.
Director Hartmeyer-Prigg,
Here.
Director Hassan, Director Kimmy,
Here.
Director Teeter,
Here.
Chair Tivnon,
Here.
Director Beatty,
Here.
Director Kim, Director Walton. Okay.
Looks like Sarah's in the attendee list right now.
Director Ulvin,
Here.
Director Lair,
Here.
I'm here. Sorry, I couldn't answer.
okay.
City recorder, is that everybody?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, before we begin tonight, I would like to take a moment to welcome Eric Blair to the Beaverton Urban Redevelopment Agency Board. Eric was approved by City Council last month to replace Anissa Vidko, who decided to step down from Bureau after many years of urban redevelopment experience in Beaverton. Many of you might know Eric from his service to Beaverton and Bureau through his volunteering as a member of URAC, the Bureau Budget Committee, BCCI, and the Five Oaks Triple Creek NAC. We know you will provide valuable input on our decisions and discussions, so thank you and welcome, Eric. Okay, in a few moments, we'll be considering this year's Bureau Board officers. As last year's chair, I will continue to preside over the meeting until we elect the chair and vice chair. First on the agenda, though, is visitor comments. Visitor comments allows visitors to speak to the Bureau Board about matters not included on tonight's agenda. Okay. Recording Secretary, do we have anyone here to address the Bureau Board?
No.
Okay, thank you. We're now going to move on to board communications. Let's see here. Let's see. Do any board members have any information that they would like to share with the rest of the board and the interim executive director? And seeing none, bear with me. We have minutes to consider from February 28th, the Bureau meeting. And I'm having trouble with my screen. Just a second. Bureau, from the February 28th, 2023 Bureau Board meeting. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the minutes of February 28th, 2023.
I'll second.
Great. We have it moved by the mayor, seconded by Councilor Board Member John Duggar. We'll now move on to the business portion of the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the election of Bureau officers for the calendar year 2024, Bureau Bill 2024-68. We'll begin with nominations for Bureau Chair. Take a vote, followed by nominations for Bureau Vice Chair and vote. The positions will begin tonight and run through the calendar year. Are there any nominations for the Bureau Chair position?
Point of order. Do we need to vote on the minutes approval? Do we need to actually vote to approve them?
Yeah, you need to do that. I would recommend you do it now. I was trying to find the raise hand feature. Took a while.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
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 Okay. Any opposed? All right. Thank you very much, Board Member Duggar. Okay. Now, do we have any nominations for Bureau Chair?
Madam Chair, I move that we recommend Ashley Hartmeyer-Prigg to serve as Bureau Chair.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right. Let's take a roll call.
Who was the second on the motion?
John Duggar.
Okay, thank you. Sorry. Director Duggar?
Yes.
Director Hartmeyer Prigg,
Yes.
Director Kimmy,
Yes.
Director Teeter,
Yes.
Chair Tivnon,
Yes.
Director Beatty,
Yes.
Director Walton,
Yes.
Director Ulvin,
Yes.
Director Lair. Motion passes.
Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, now we're going to move on to the Bureau Vice Chair nominations. Do we have a nomination?
Madam Chair, I move that we nominate Sarah Walton to serve as the vice chair.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay, will the recorder please take the call? Roll call.
I think you said my name. It was breaking up, but yes.
I'm going to say yes.
And we're having trouble hearing you.
I accidentally turned the microphone off. Okay. I'm just going to start from the top. Sorry about that. Director Duggar,
Yes.
Director Hartmeyer Prigg,
Yes.
Director Kimmy,
Yes.
Director Teeter,
Yes.
Chair Tivnon,
Yes.
Director Beatty,
Yes.
Director Kim. Oh, he's absent. Sorry. Director Walton,
Yes.
Director Ulvin,
Yes.
Director Lair.
Yes.
Okay, I'm assuming that's everybody. Okay. Well, if you've ever seen one of those videos of the hurdler hitting every single hurdle in the race, that's how I feel right now on my last night serving as chair of Bureau. But thank you very much for bearing with me, and also for the honor of having this position over the last year. I'd like to say congratulations to our new chair, Councilor Hartmeyer Prigg, and our vice chair, Sarah Walton. Thank you so much for your service and for stepping up to do this important work. So with that, I will pass the gavel over to my colleague and our new chair.
All right. Thank you, Director Tivnon. We have 2 items on our consent agenda today. The Bureau Budget Committee reappointments and appointments, which is Bureau Bill 2024-69, and the URAC reappointments and appointments, Bureau Bill 2024-70. I want to just remind everyone on the how we get here, if you aren't sure on the procedure, but the Bureau Board is actually considering a recommendation made by the Bureau Executive Director. So staff is actually the ones who make these recommendations to us on who should serve on these boards for appointment for both the Bureau Budget and the Urban Renewal Advisory Committee. So City Council does consider and approve recommendations for all other city boards and commissions, but this one is our honor to get to confirm those appointments based on staff recommendation. So do I have a motion for these 2 consent items?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion from Councilor Duggar and a second from Councilor Kimmy. Do we need a roll call vote on this one, City Attorney?
I always prefer roll call votes when we're meeting virtually in the sense that the public should know how everyone voted. I realize it'll probably be unanimous, but
That's okay. I just wanted to clarify. Okay, so City Recorder, will you please take a roll call vote on the consent agenda items?
Sorry. Yes, Madam Chair. Director Duggar,
Yes.
Director Hartmeyer Prigg,
Yes.
Director Kimmy,
Yes.
Director Teeter,
Yes.
Director Tivnon,
Yes.
Director Beatty,
Yes.
Director Walton,
Yes.
Director Ulvin,
Yes.
Director Lair.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is Bureau Bill 2024-71, the Bureau 5-year strategic plan priorities discussion. This is a follow-up from our work session in November where we all were together in person, and Eric will help to catch you up through tonight's presentation on our great discussion, and staff, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, and welcome Chair Prigg, and thank you Chair Tivnon, or former Chair Tivnon. Appreciate all the work that you've done with us and the meetings that we've had kind of offline in order to ensure that these meetings run smoothly. Chair Hartmeyer Prigg, with you and Ms. Walton, will start setting up some one-on-one meetings to do our previews of each meeting each month. So more to come on that. Welcome. So this is our big topic for tonight, and obviously we spent a lot of time together back in November, and it was our first time meeting together in real life, and I appreciate all the feedback. I'm not quite sure what's going on with the audio, but I will try to do my best. Hopefully that is better. Okay. On November 28th, we were working on our priorities for Bureau in this coming year and the next 5 years. We were joined by Nick Popnick and Elaine Howard, our consultants who have spent quality time with us when they had power, excluding last week, in which both Elaine and Nick were privy to the storm situation. The PowerPoint will be posted here after the meeting. So let me share my screen. And I suspect that one is okay for everybody. Okay. So tonight's agenda, we're going to be spending a little bit of time with Nick on urban renewal funding and debt, walking you through how urban renewal actually works, and as we start thinking about our strategies and how we want to pay for them in the next 5 to 15 years. We'll do an overview of our time together in November, as well as with URAC in our work sessions that worked on those strategic priorities. And then we're going to ensure that those strategic priorities are going to fit into the 5-year action plan that we will be bringing back to you next month. So with that, I'm going to send this over to Janine. Actually, no, we're going to Nick. My apologies. I'm off one slide here. Here you go. Nick Popnick, go ahead.
No problem. Thank you, Tyler. Great to see everyone virtually again. In my opinion, there's never a bad time to discuss municipal debt during your evening hours. But it's especially important to discuss it with you all tonight based on the upcoming work on this 5-year action plan. That 5-year strategic action plan is going to include some recommendations from staff for you to consider on which specific projects should receive funding at what level of funding over the next 5 years. And how that plan looks is going to differ substantially based on whether or not we assume any debt is going to be incurred for this urban renewal area. So we wanted to make sure that we had a conversation tonight about debt and how debt for an urban renewal agency feels a bit different from debt for the city or from other municipalities out there. So that's the framework for this conversation. The chart on the slide here is really meant to highlight some of the fundamental differences when we're thinking about debt in a budgeting context for the urban renewal agency versus a city or another unit of government. One of the absolute most fundamental differences is that your city is going to be here forever. You are providing vital public services, and you're providing those same services year after year after year. Bureau is temporary. This urban renewal plan has a fixed maximum indebtedness, and once it's achieved that maximum indebtedness, the tax increment finance revenue goes away. So very fundamental different in terms of how you think about budgeting here. The next line in terms of what is the emphasis, what's the focus of the costs that are occurring. With a city and with other jurisdictions, county, fire districts, et cetera, you're largely looking at personnel costs. where as opposed to Bureau, you're looking at capital projects and really very specific, tangible projects that have a beginning and an end. Personnel costs, you want to be stable. You want to make sure that you're funding the exact same amount every year, one year to the next, taking into account inflationary factors and all of that. But you don't want to have wild swings in your expenditures when you're looking at personnel, because that results in laying off folks one year and then trying frantically to hire them back the next year. When you're looking at capital projects, it is very natural to have big wild swings where you do a large expenditure one year and then you maybe go a few years with greatly reduced levels of expenditures as you save up and get ready to do the next big project. So the types of expenditures that are being made tend to be significantly different. The revenue growth on that third line item, a lot of city revenues tend to be slow and steady. Unfortunately, there's plenty of city revenues that tend to have no growth at all or might even be in decline. And you're really looking at trying to maintain a steady budget, just trying to cobble together the resources to tackle the inflationary pressure from one year to the next. For Bureau, it's a very different story. Tax increment finance revenues experience rapid growth, and they experience sustained growth over the life of the area. While the percentage growth in revenues might decline a little bit as time goes on, still compared to most of the city revenues that you've seen, the growth in revenue for Bureau is just off the charts. A very strong growing revenue stream from tax increment financing. And then lastly, the mission or what you're trying to accomplish. Again, very different, where the city has a number of public services, vital services that you're trying to provide. Those services don't go away. You have those same demands year after year, whereas Bureau is focused on economic development. In particular, it's focused based in statute on alleviating blight. And a lot of what that means is to focus on growing the tax base. And when it comes to that and trying to invest and grow the tax base, the sooner you can make your impact on that, the better in terms of paying off dividends down the road. So very different focus in terms of how these agencies budget. And because of that, they have a very different relationship with debt. So if we go to the next slide, Tyler. Oh, still, there we go, perfect. The next slide has some best practices for urban renewal debt. And again, this is focused on urban renewal agencies. So if you wear a different hat as a city councilor or as a member of another taxing district or even running your own private business, again, the way that urban renewal agencies look at debt is not necessarily the way that other entities look at debt. Key bullet point, urban renewal debt is used to accelerate the delivery of catalytic projects. That's key for a number of reasons. If you can do your projects faster, then you're going to have less costs of inflation over time. That means that your maximum indebtedness is going to be able to go further because you're building these projects today at a lower cost than you are in the future. And additionally, you want those projects to be catalytic because if they have a positive impact on the surrounding tax base, if they are growing that assessed value, then that just means your revenue stream in future years will grow even faster. That'll allow you to do even more projects sooner. So accelerating the timing of catalytic projects is the key reason why you look at debt for an urban renewal agency. Some other activities that urban renewal agencies do are more programmatic in nature. And so those annual program expenses, things that are the same year to year in terms of your operating expenses, administration, those should be fairly limited in scope for an urban renewal agency that focuses on these big projects. And they should not be funded through debt. So while we are talking a lot about the importance of debt for urban renewal agencies, we do recognize that you have certain programmatic costs and administrative costs that you're going to have to fund every single year. Funding those with debt just digs you further into the hole because not only are you paying for those same costs every year, but you're paying for interest on those costs every year. The third bullet point, tax increment revenue streams have been dependable and they show rapid growth that allows for more frequent issuances of debt. So this is really a key differentiator between a lot of municipal revenues and tax increment financing. if you're looking to borrow money for a new utility improvement, water, wastewater treatment plant, and the money that's coming in are the funds from ratepayers, that revenue year after year after year is largely the same. You need to increase your rates that you're charging folks in order to generate a bump in your revenues to be able to pay off added debt service. So if you incur debt on a stable revenue stream, you're really tying your hands on how much you can fund for annual operations in future years. With tax increment financing, where you have this very strong and stable, dependable revenue growth, you can incur debt 1 year, and the next year, 2 or 3 years down the road, your revenue stream has already grown substantially. So now you have an additional cushion to start funding more projects, to do more of those program or administrative costs, or to start thinking about the next issuance of debt. So that strong revenue growth really puts you in a different sort of paradigm than many other government agencies. And then lastly here, we kind of mentioned this in the first bullet point, but urban renewal is constrained by the maximum indebtedness. That's really the limiting factor here, is the total amount that you spend on your project costs. One of the key trade-offs when it comes to issuing debt is that by funding the project sooner, you lower the actual cost of the project in terms of inflation, but you've added the cost of interest down the road. And so that's certainly something that you should always consider whenever any entity is taking on debt. But for an urban renewal agency, where your primary limiting factor is the capital cost of your investment, you want to explore whatever strategies you can to reduce those capital costs. And so the added cost of interest over time is offset by the fact that you've got a reduced cost of inflation, and that allows you to get more projects done within your maximum indebtedness. Not to ignore the fact that doing so does mean you have to use more TIF revenue to pay off that debt long term, and obviously want to be cognizant of that. So for all of these reasons, when we come back, I think at the next meeting, and we have a more detailed conversation on the specific projects and programs that might be funded in the next 5 years, it's very likely that the staff recommendation to you is going to include new indebtedness during this 5-year period, so you can fund more of these capital projects, especially these catalytic capital projects that are going to be able to save you money on inflation down the road and hopefully incentivize new private development in the area that continues to spur more and more rapid growth in assessed value here. That way, when the area does close down, it can close down sooner from getting these projects done sooner, and it's had a more positive impact on the overall tax base that will eventually return to those overlapping taxing districts. So I think that was all of the debt conversation for this evening, though I'm sure we've got, at the end of this presentation, plenty of time for questions and discussion from you all. I think, Janine, I'm turning it over to you now.
Thanks, Nick. Great job. Good evening, Janine Lambert, Community Development Department. Again, as Tyler mentioned, at the November 28th Bureau work session, we discussed strategic priorities planning. And we asked, with Bureau's commitment to equity and the urban renewal plan's overarching goal to leverage private and catalytic investments, 4 questions. 1, is Bureau achieving the plan goals with the projects and programs? 2, are there questions about the projects, add or remove? 3, is there continued support for those ongoing projects? If not, why? And 4, given the context of the set project category allocations in the plan, what proposed ideas from the plan are important or timely to address over the next 5 years? Next slide. So just a quick note before we dig into the proposed 5-year strategic priorities, it's important to state that the key goals, such as equity and inclusivity from adopted plans, will be implemented at the project level under the strategic priorities. Next slide. So in the recent work session with Bureau and subsequent URAC meeting, we heard priorities should include multimodal transportation, creek improvements and amenities, infrastructure that catalyzes private investment, catalyzes redevelopment, as well as increased pedestrian use. So staff is proposing the first proposed strategic priority that captures these is capital infrastructure support. And this remains a strategic priority from the last 5-year plan. Next slide.
We also heard that affordable housing, redevelopment of Bureau properties, expanding investment geographically, high impact investments, promoting parking management, attracting employment, strategic property acquisition, investing in green building, investing in building resiliency and historic preservation, and also consideration of program income are also priorities. Therefore, staff is proposing the next strategic priority be strategic investment and redevelopment support that encompasses these items. Next slide. And finally, we heard that strengthening the identity of Beaverton's core and investing in strategic short-term activations as part of implementing a long-term strategy are priorities. Therefore, staff is proposing a third strategic priority that captures these as placemaking and community identity support. Next slide. So for next steps, tonight we're seeking your feedback and we're here to answer questions on the 3 strategic priorities for the 5-year plan. From here, we will be drafting the 5-year plan that will include the potential funding allocations under those strategic priorities and possible program income language to bring you to the March meeting for review. And next slide. Thank you. And we look forward to your feedback and questions.
Thanks, Janine. So I know Director Lair is our only new member, but just a reminder, if you want to use the chat, go ahead and put your name in the chat so I can call on you for questions. And yeah, the floor is open for some questions for staff or comments. Director Kinney.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. You guys did a wonderful job, especially Nick. I think you memorized the whole thing. Flawless. I have a question in regards to the 5-year plan where is there any chance to, I wasn't here when this was voted in the beginning, 15 years ago. We got 15 years to go, and I was wondering if is there any chance to go back to voters in regards to expanding the geographic zone that we're supposed to develop, because the Allen Boulevard and other places keep popping up, and we are limited by what the voter was approved in the beginning, and we got 15 years to go. And then, so I was wondering, is there any feasibility or any way we could go back to voters to change the zone?
I can take that if you want.
Thank you.
Yeah, what I would say is that it would require a vote of the people. You can do it. It's a major plan amendment. It's the same sort of lift as the original authorization of the plan. The one exception is this provision that says 1% of the land can be, you can expand the borders by 1% of the total land as a minor plan amendment. But I don't know, I've not done any of the work of, well, what would that mean in terms of number of acres, or how much property really would that be? And would that be worthwhile to do for some reason? But once you go over that 1% limit, you're going back to a vote of the people, and it's a ballot measure. It's very similar to that.
And we have had an expansion since I've been on Bureau, correct? Because we brought a little bit in. I'm fairly certain. Is it 1% every time you do it, or in the totality of the?
In the totality. And was that the urban? Was that one of the tax incentive programs that got expanded? I'm not sure whether that was the urban renewal boundaries or whether it was a
Vertical housing.
No, I'm thinking about the employment. Veneer part took
enterprise zone.
Enterprise zone, yeah. I'm wondering whether that's. I do recall the enterprise zone getting expanded at one point. But anyway, I just don't know what the impact. Maybe Tyler or others who are more connected with the operation of Borough would know how many. What would be that impact of 1%? Or we can come back with that information later.
Yeah, just follow up with that is that if possible, without changing, I don't know how it's going to work. And we have approved Bureau. We just want to expand the geographic zone. And I know we have to go back to the we have to put it on ballot. But I just want to have a discussion where within 5-year plan, this could be something that we should look at because I think that we could expand the zone and then develop other areas of the city. I don't know what other people think, but that's what I was thinking.
And just one more point, if it failed, you still have what you have now. It's not like it shuts down the Central Beaverton Urban Renewal Plan. That's not what happens. You just don't expand it.
Okay. Director Kimmy, any further questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you, City Attorney, for your help there. Director Duggar.
And thanks. I'm not really sure which strategic priority should be identified, but what I would like to see for the next 5 years are very specific goals. And in my mind, this could be accountability, it could be a number of things, but so that's why I'm not quite sure, which of the 3 strategic goals it could go under. But what I'm specifically referring to is like, if we had an identified goal of, say, 5,000 new residents within the Bureau area, or X amount of jobs, or X amount of investment, right? Then we could hold ourselves accountable, and that would help us prioritize those things. I see it in cities, in urban renewals, or urban renewal areas all over the country. We're going to have 10,000 new downtown residents, or 10,000 new jobs, or whatever it is. And the goal would not be to like punish staff if we don't hit that, right? We can't control the market, but in my mind, like that gives us direction for our specific investments and things like that. We can see whether we're on track. And then when we have conversations around things like land acquisition, right? We have specific measurable goals that we can use to put that within the framework, right? If we're 2,000 units behind on year 3, then that means we've got to start accelerating, right? Or we need to really focus on a specific area. And so my hope will be that for this upcoming 5-year plan, that we can change a priority or add a priority, something that calls out the creation of very specific goals for the next 5 years. So like in residential, jobs, and investment. Like what are those goals? Because right now it feels like we do these things and we can never fail because we haven't held ourselves. We put these high level goals, but I kind of want to put that pressure on us. I want to feel like we could fail, and I really think we need to do something around that.
Thank you, Mayor Beatty.
Thank you, Chair, and sorry for speaking out of turn there. I'm so accustomed to being the one in charge. So. Please forgive me for that. And I knew you were about to yell at me in public, so I'm just going to do it right out from underneath you. I would, too, want to address a little bit of Councilor Kimmy. I would definitely not be a fan of going out to the voters asking to expand the district. We have not even tackled 5th and Western, which is a huge part of what's in Bureau. We've been mainly focused around City Hall and the adjoining areas, which has been needed. It was a blight, and that's part of the reason we went after that, is driving through our core is these gigantic open spaces, and we have a lot more opportunity to build and develop there, and we don't have like copious amounts of money. We're halfway in. We've talked about the indebtedness. We've talked about all that. I'm very interested in the work and why we barely spend any money in 5th and Western, which, as somebody that actually worked on the urban renewal with voters, is something we promised them we would do. I think what's challenging, and I get that from our council and members that join midstream, it's important for us to go back and talk about what we promised to do with voters. And that I would be, Cassandra might come on after and rebuttal this statement. I would be in the future open to the idea of another urban redevelopment zone with Allen Boulevard in mind. But that is intense planning, lots of transportation. There's a lot of moving parts that would need to be involved in a plan like that. And so I don't think just simply going to voters and say we need to include that, I don't think that's a winning strategy. And I guess I might this is my day of disagreement. I slightly disagree with Councilor Duggar because it's not, our job is to create the environment for business to be successful. Our job is to put the boundaries around making improvements and investments. And if we really can't control the amount of doors that we build, that's market, that's how things are doing. So I want to be with you around some sharper edges around the goals, but I want to be careful that we don't overstep our boundaries as an elected body or the Bureau body that we don't, I tell the governor all the time, we don't produce housing, we don't produce business. That's not a city's job, or the city's job is to create the environment for those things to happen in. And so what are we doing around making those things happen? What kind of infrastructure are we investing in, for example, to get more density? What is the sidewalks? What does that look like? That's, if we wanted to set a goal, that's the kind of goal that I could get behind. When I look at the plan goals now and where they're at, I mean, I think they're great. I think it gives us some autonomy to move around within them. It keeps the essence of what you've heard from us over and over again about housing and transportation and art and innovation. We still have immense work to do in the district, and so I want to challenge us to ask ourselves, what are we doing to set the right conditions to see what we want, versus us trying to control every aspect of it, because we've tried and we're not good at it and we shouldn't be doing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Lair.
I look at the strategic priorities, and some of these things are definitely addressed by current projects, the loop or the portfolio redevelopment strategy, and some of them are definitely not, things like creek improvements and amenities. It'd be interesting to understand from the staff's perspective how many of these are currently being addressed, and how many would require new projects or new things to take place to address these priorities.
I suppose I can start with looking at the high level. I've got it here on my screen. Obviously, the loop, as you mentioned, creek improvements is definitely in an area that we have not done anything with. We had the Creekside Master Plan that was a fantastic way of articulating a lot of different strategies. If we ever go back and actually do an audit of the Creekside Master Plan, it's pretty darn good, except for the Creekside stuff, the actual creek, stormwater, floodplain mitigation, those kinds of things. From infrastructure that to catalyze redevelopment and additional pedestrian use around the portfolio strategies, yeah, those are going to get hit. The Western Avenue project, Bureau did fund some to the Western Avenue, not a lot, but there was $1 million or so put towards planning and construction over on Western. We recognize Western Avenue improvement was the first thing out of the box as a strategy to do when we did the West 5 plan. And with the completion of that, additional utility infrastructure work, sidewalks, bike lanes, those things are setting it up for redevelopment. Affordable housing, I'm on to the next slide here. Affordable housing, obviously that is a top priority. That we have done a little bit of work, and we expect to do more work on that side of things. We have the properties, expanding investment geographically, different Western Smiths. We catalyze parking management. We've checked, and we're going to continue to work on parking management. Attracting employment. So yeah, that's a big one. That's something that we probably have not done so well, and we need to be thinking about jobs. From the service level jobs, we've probably done a nice job down in the downtown core. Acquisitions, we've done a lot of strategic acquisitions. Can we do more? Sure, but also we do have 8 acres that we would like to dispose of in a proper way. Invest in green building, having an eye to being smart with our investments as we invite others to come in. We've changed the building improvement program slightly in order to help on that smaller front to meet green ideas, along with building resiliency and historic preservation. Same thing with the building improvement program changes. And then consider program income generation. Then placemaking, community identity. Obviously, those are things that we can continue to do well. So
Tyler, you have.
I probably went.
Tyler's having some some audio
A little
issues.
bit further than a little bandwidth issue.
So I'm just going to take over and just say.
Board member they're expecting, but to answer your question.
So I'm just going to take over and start to say, I think this is also best answered. Exhibit 2 of the agenda bill from November has a really great progress list of projects that shows what's been started, what's in progress, and what hasn't been started yet. And I think that's a really good place to start for kind of how we get from here to there. But we see what we've presented tonight, what we heard from the Bureau Board in November and NERAC as well, as a really good mix of things that have been started, are multi-year endeavors, and require a lot of continued care and feeding. And some projects are like the interim placemaking in order to create and foster a long-term strategy. That's a much shorter horizon than something that's a multi-year infrastructure improvement project. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, but at least gives you some resources also.
That answers it. Thank you.
Great.
Thanks. And Janine, the packet, like the Bureau bill that supported this was only like 5 pages. So I'm not sure if I see an Exhibit 1 and Exhibit A. So I didn't know if we were missing something.
No, I'm sorry. This is Exhibit 2 to November's Bureau.
Oh, to November. Okay, thank you. I just really worried.
So that was a very meaty packet, and we referred to it also in this one.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, Director Timnon.
Thank you, and I really needed that laugh. So I hope, Tyler, that your bandwidth levels out, but that was hilarious. And we did get most of it, I think. So mine are mainly just observations and some reflection on the last year and the work that we did in our in-person work session, which was so great to have that time in chambers together working on this. As Councilor Kimmy had said, I came in midstream on this. I wasn't here in the early days of it, and it was already full steam ahead. Our old executive director, Cheryl Tweedy, had done a fantastic job at the helm. We had excellent staff who were following through on the plan. The report backs to the Bureau Board were wonderful. The biggest things that came to mind for me was land acquisition as a big one that took up a lot of our conversations since I've joined Bureau. Storefront improvement programs and supporting small business in the core. And those are the things that really stuck out to me. And we even had some times where we would talk about, like, strategically, should we grab that to do this? And someone else came in wanting the same thing. And to me, that was a really good sign that what we were doing was creating a center of gravity that was attracting the attention of others in the free market that were coming out of their own volition without any enticement to just take advantage of this great environment and ecosystem that we were creating. So the way that I look at the work session that we all participated in, the outcomes of it in this document now, is that basically this is and these are enhancements to the work that's been done and kind of blooming out the focus from where it's been to something that is like, oh yeah, and this and that. The biggest things that I remember hearing when we got together was around creeks, was around placemaking, was that sense of, do people know when they're in one part versus another? Can we make it feel more interconnected, but also that these distinct areas stand on their own and have their own unique character and culture that's really flourishing within them as part of this united center of our city. So when I was looking through it, I was excited at the additions. The placemaking, the creeks, the parking, and a renewed look at that as we're bringing more and more people in the downtown. I think that all of those make great sense to weave into as a continuation of the work that we're already doing. The one that I was most excited to see on the list was preservation. We don't have a ton of it in the core, but there are some really significant buildings. And to see them brought back to life, like what happened with the Beaverton building, I think is a great example of that. What else is out there? What could accidentally kind of get torn asunder from development and progress of renewing the area? And I'd love to identify those so that we can make them a part of this new story. So those are my reflections on it. I like scrutinizing, picking apart things and trying to find the weak spots, but I felt like it was pretty dang strong. So I don't have a whole lot in the way of comments of things that could be improved or modified or tweaked. I think it would be a nice guiding document to help us through the next several years.
Thank you, Director Tibnon. Is there anyone else that has questions or comments for staff or our consultant team? Okay. Oh, Councilor Teeter.
Thank you. I feel like I've just been still trying to process this and trying to find pieces to critique. So the fact that it's taken me a long time to really try to figure out what's missing, I think is a good sign. I've heard Councilor Duggar talk about measurables for downtown and Bureau quite a bit over the past year and a half or so. And it's always resonated with me too. But I definitely hear the mayor's comments about just trying to set up the market to succeed. So I'm not sure where I stand on that right now, but I'm kind of open if there's a good model of an urban renewal program that we can take and adjust for Beaverton. I'm open there. I am curious, how do parks and green spaces fit within this, or do they? If we just approved the downtown parks and open space framework plan with THPRD co-creating that, and I don't know if that's something we should be considering as part of the strategic planning process, or if it's something that should happen alongside development and it's not a bureau priority. Any staff have any perspective there?
I'll try to talk. We'll see how that works. And my apologies about earlier. We have to be a little bit careful on parks and plazas as when we put the plan together and with our partner agencies, there was a real strive to ensure our investments were going to TIF-based types of projects. And you have an open space or public buildings, which is not necessarily what we've been desiring to do. Now, there may be a little bit of flexibility there. And then there's also, how do we work with our private developers and to bring in these open spaces when projects such as Lombard West come to the table. And so we are actively working with THPRD and with the Lombard West project to ensure that as we RFP that site, that they can kind of help guide us a little bit of what makes sense from that desires that we had in that framework plan that we recently approved. With that being said, we recognize how important open space is and how important plazas are. And in some jurisdictions, they use that tool for renewal to create those open spaces and plazas and then use that to catalyze surrounding. Jamison Park in the Pearl District is an excellent example. But that's not exactly how our plan had been set up.
Okay, that's great. And I know we've talked about it as part of specific parcel and project redevelopment, kind of alongside development. But yeah, it makes sense for it not to be in here too. Yeah, I'll just share some other parts that I really liked. I love seeing historic preservation and preservation being in here. I love the focus on creeks. I also agree with the mayor. A little bit more attention on the Fifth and Western area would be good. Would be good for me too. I feel like much of my attention is always on downtown, and I can think less or think less often of the Fifth and Western employment area. And I would hate to get towards the end of Bureau and then realize, uh-oh, we forgot to do that part, and now we want to go out and do Allen, and the voters don't trust us to fully implement a plan. So that Fifth and Western area is on my mind too. But otherwise, I'm on board with this. I would love to see what it looks like in March when we talk about it again.
Okay, to our presenters tonight, do you have other questions or anything else that you want to hear from the Bureau Board? Okay.
That's it for me.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
just the same.
Okay, great. Well, thank you. We look forward to having you back when it's time to look at the next phase of this plan. So thank you so much. Our next agenda item is the Executive Director's Report. Dan, do you have anything for us tonight?
Yeah, I do. Just a few items, and I'll try to keep it very brief because I'm sure we all want to get on with the evening. But just want to actually reflecting on when was the last time we met, and just say happy holidays, I guess, because it has been a minute. But also just wanted to welcome Eric to the board. Really happy to have you here, have you with us, and just excited for your contribution, given all the background that you bring to the group, and look forward to maybe at some point we get another in-person session and we get to sit down across the table. So if there are anything that staff can do to help you as you start your service, we're happy to do that as well. Wanted to touch on the storm last week and just let you know, I mean, obviously there's been and maybe actually I'll tag team with Cassandra if you've got any items you want to add, but certainly from the city perspective and specifically obviously in the Bureau area, we've had some trees and other issues. I think we saw some minimal damage to businesses, and we're still trying to assess and hear from folks. So if you do have information about any potential damage or things that might be storm related, you can send it my way. I'm interested in kind of understanding more of what the impacts in the community have been. And given the emergency declarations at the state and local levels, just trying to make sure we point people in the right direction for resources and support financially. And essentially just look to help recover. We're going to do a bit of a hot wash for after action of what happened in the city and our response, and hopefully we'll be able to have some lessons learned, but that is not relevant for Bureau. I don't know, Cassandra, if you look like you had at least some nodding. I don't know if you want to actually.
Yeah, it's been a long 2024 so far. So we definitely had a huge spike in our call volume, which prompted us to go into major emergency operations mode. So we actually had 4 concurrent incident management teams managing various things, including we had to relocate firefighters from stations where we had water problems or damage, all simultaneously. And we had one of our lieutenants that was shot and killed on January 2nd. So we've just kind of all been going full tilt for 3 weeks. We went in major emergency operations mode. Basically, we worked with dispatch 911 to prioritize response to calls. We staffed up multiple units. We leveraged some of our people that are non-traditional first responders to go to some of those public assist calls. And then we actually had a water purveyor from Tualatin Valley Water District help us because we were running on so many water problem calls that then decreases our reliability from other emergencies. So it was a constructive phase for us. We have a lot of folks in new positions learning how to run in the incident command system that's different from how we run it on normal incidents and response. So it was good. And our dispatching entity, which also dispatches Beaverton PD, Public Works, some of the other utilities, were phenomenal. So, with just a huge call volume. Like we are doing a cost recovery analysis to figure out what will be eligible for some of those state expenses. And we're looking forward to a little less frenetic week this week, which I almost don't even want to say out loud. So yeah, thank you. And we appreciated being able to work with your public works partners and others, because everybody was just, trying to take care of everybody in the region.
Yeah, thank you. And I do see Tim is on the call, so I just want to say thank you to Public Works on the meeting, because certainly, not every emergency is, per se public safety, but, we do need to have public safety be able to get around, and certainly residents as well. And so, being able to clear things and keep the roads safe is super important. And Public Works staff was pulling 12-hour shifts trying to make sure that everybody could get around to the extent that the ice let us get around. So thank you to Public Works. And just a preview, I guess, given that, we're almost to the end of January, and hopefully a quieter week, maybe next week for everyone. But as we get into Bureau for the rest of the spring and into the year, we're going to have, in February, we're going to have some one-on-ones for y'all. We're going to bring forward the Lombard West solicitation for discussion. So we'll schedule those, and essentially activating some of the portfolio redevelopment strategy. So you'll see some of those items coming forward. As you counselors know, I think we're in budget development season, and so we're working hard on the city side to think about what our what we're putting forward for requests for our budget. Bureau is included in that, and so from a staffing standpoint, we're looking at budgets right now. And so the 5-year action plan, it's super important for us, thinking about what are we trying to accomplish as we're thinking about the resources we have, and what our priorities are going to be for the year. So this is a really timely conversation, and we'll look forward to wrapping it up maybe in the next meeting, at least further discussion in February. And I think I'm going to leave it there unless there are questions.
Thanks, Dan. Director Teeters, do you have a question for Dan?
Yes. So Dan, you said you would like to know more if we know businesses that have suffered or businesses or maybe properties in the Bureau district, if they've suffered damage. Is that because they would be eligible for our building improvement program funding, or is it state emergency funds you want to connect them with?
We're trying to figure out, there are FEMA resources potentially available. There's, we would like to know, what the extent of the damage is, I think, so that we can connect them with resources. There might be city, there might be state or federal. We're just, probably depend on what we're talking about. But
okay.
Unless we know, we can't connect. So that's really the
okay. Thanks.
Great. I don't have a question, but just also a huge thank you. I was out on Saturday when the winds were going wild, and was texting city manager because I was in the heart of Bureau and near the dining commons, and just a huge thank you to everyone that was responding to things that were happening during that storm. I think that it's a good reminder for us on council about climate change being, a priority, that we need to be resilient and combating as much climate change as we can in our actions as a city, and our emergency preparedness. And then for Bureau, we're making these huge investments, and what are we doing to protect that investment too? I think this, it's kind of devastating to go around right now while we're still in the midst of that cleanup, and people lost their homes and their businesses. And so also just a reminder that we have made these investments in Bureau, and we are a destination now in Beaverton. And so let's get out and support all those small businesses, because most of them lost a week of business, and they really need us because it's January and it's a hard month as it is. So, I don't know if a lot of people watch our Bureau meetings, but all of us are people who are in touch with our community members. So I think reminding everyone to support our local businesses and restaurants as best we can is really, really important right now. So I just had to add that in, because I think we all know it and we all feel it and you can see it, but just a good reminder. Okay, thank you, Dan. Our final agenda item is any board member time. So actually we don't have that, do we? I think we don't. So we really get to adjourn, but I want to give any last chance for questions or comments. And we're going to finish by 7, which is quite amazing. Okay, thank you everyone so much for the time, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Meeting is adjourned.